Joe Biden gave that massive speech, signals a changing position on the filibuster and voting rights, for the country. But also he wanted to give it for the actual activists who are fighting to make sure that people can vote. People like Stacey Abrams, but also many different groups operating throughout the country. Many of those groups, though, were not there at the speech. In fact, let's see. We've got Black Voters Matter, Galileo Impact Fund, New Georgia Project Action Fund, the Asian American Advocacy Fund, the Atlanta North Georgia Labor Council, along with James Woodall, the Georgia NAACP president. They all announced that they weren't going to be there for the speech. They weren't there to hear Joe Biden or Kamala Harris when she ended up speaking either. A joint statement from the Voting Rights Coalition says Georgia voters made history and made their voices heard, overcoming obstacles, threats, and suppressive laws to deliver the White House and the US Senate. In return, a visit has been forced on them, requiring them to accept political platitudes and repetitious, bland promises. Such an empty gesture without concrete action, without signs of real, tangible work is unacceptable. So that's kind of what we got. I mean, even the bland, tepid statements are better than I suppose what we had for many months. But the prediction there from the Voting Rights Coalition about what was going to be done at those speeches is not inaccurate. There wasn't like a vigorous condemnation of individual senators, a calling out of their corruption that leads to them opposing reforms of the filibuster. There wasn't anything like that. There was voting is good and you should be able to. What do you think about them not being there? And by the way, let's also throw out that Stacey Abrams specifically wasn't there, noticeably absent, said that there was an unspecified scheduling conflict. I am hardly the busiest man in America. Maybe some people have much more complex schedules than me, and maybe that leads to scheduling conflicts. I don't buy it. I think you'd make time if you were really supportive of the president and the vice president. And they like specifically want you to be there, and you're gonna be running for office in that state. I think you make time for it, unless you don't want to make time for it.
Why would
what
she
do you
not
think
want to
about
make
that?
But why would she not want to make time for it? For those same reasons, obviously, the Voting Rights Coalition went through the whole thing. So she's on board with that thought process. But as you mentioned, because she's gonna run for office, because she was specifically invited by the current president of your party, and is in office right now, and is making this type of fiery speech, which she has been making before, we need you. And then this is the type of illustration that then you give back to them. From these types of voting rights coalitions, from minority voters, from other people that you've shunned to the side and still enjoy their support. Show them what we've always been saying. Yes, we need you so that you can pass these laws and legislation, all this stuff, but you need us. You're not in office without us. And it seems like such a simple equation. We know it, but we don't really act on it. So of course, that establishment politicians can always roll into town. This is any party, by the way, can always roll into town and be like, the president is here. I know you guys said you don't like me, you don't like what I'm doing, but I'm here. And when the president comes, you sit down and stand behind me and look great for me. No, not anymore. That stuff is changing. We're not gonna continue to be pawns in the back of your photo opportunity to make sure that you look good. No, man.
Yeah. No. And so I respect that as a decision. And I get that, like, Psaki wasn't going to admit that they had been stood up by all these groups. Biden asked about this yesterday, says about Abrams, he spoke to her, we're all on the same page. We have a great relationship. We got our scheduling mixed up. Okay, yeah. No, and like, when I asked a girl to go out with me in elementary school, she did just have to wash her hair. Like, it's a scheduling, like I wanted to go on a date, she wanted to wash her hair. It happened.
John got started early, man. I wasn't asking girls out till I was like 15.
I also very much was not, by the way. Anyway, I am fake news. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.